In a circus, Rachel walks into an abandoned and eerie place. She says, "Hello," and the lights turn on. The Graysons present the aerial acrobatics. Suddenly, the rope cuts down and two players fall to the ground. Rachel screams. She had a nightmare. The same one every night. Her mother calms her down. She locks the door behind her. The next morning, Rachel asks her mother about what's inside her. The mother takes her hands and prays. But Rachel fiercely pushes her away. She regrets and apologizes to her mother, and she takes the bus to school. In Detroit City, where Detective Grayson goes to his office, due to what happened to his last partner, Grayson prefers working alone. His new partner, Amy, finds him rude. After school, Rachel goes back home where she finds a man threatening her mother with a gunpoint. He says that she's not her mother and kills her, upon which Rachel screams. An entity diverts from her and kills the man. She runs away. She reaches a bus station and books a one-way ticket to Detroit. Rachel reaches a place where she eats free food. A lady comes to her offering her shelter. The lady takes a shortcut when Rachel sees her reflection, who tells her that the woman is lying. Run. She runs, and when she sees the cop's car, she throws a brick to let them arrest her. When she's brought to the police station, Grayson investigates her case. She takes him off guard when she tells him that he's the Grayson boy whose parents died in the circus. At first, he thinks that she's playing games, but when she tells him that her mother recently has been murdered, he asks her for the name and address. Rachel implores him to not leave her alone, but he goes on to check the data he got from her. He makes a call and gets the confirmation that her mother was killed in what seems a homicide incident. Meanwhile, a police officer tells her that they're gonna transfer her to a safer place. She looks at her reflection in the car window, who tells her, "Let me kill him now." But the man injects something into her neck, causing her to lose consciousness. When he looks for the girl in the interrogation room, Grayson finds no one. He hurries up to find her unconscious in the cop car. When Rachel wakes up, she realizes that she's tied up to a chair surrounded with candles, seemingly some cult's rituals, and finds that same man who killed her mother is holding a knife, wanting to harm her. He tells her that he's the savior who'll save the world from the evil inside her. From outside, Grayson reaches the place and fights with the policeman who brought Rachel. He walks inside and calls her name. She screams for help, upon which he hurries to her place. Rachel, terrified of the man, enables the entity inside her to merge out and kill the man who falls in his blood. When Grayson bangs on the door and sees the girl sobbing and the body of the man lying on the floor, he unties her and takes her away. Somewhere in Vienna, a woman opens her eyes in a car crash beside a dead man. She gets out of the car, not knowing who she is or what's happening to her. A black car comes fast in her direction with a gun firing. She runs off the road into the woods. The men come after her. She finds a restroom where she opens her handbag and finds her passport. She learns that her name is Corey and that she booked a room in a hotel in the city. She enters her wing and investigates the spacious place and finds a mobile phone whose screen shows a picture of her with a man. Her thoughts come to an end by the thudding sound from the cupboard. She opens its door to find a gagged man. She takes it off and asks him about the man in her mobile phone. He cuts his ties and attacks the woman, but she easily knocks him down. He tells her that he's Konstantin Kovar and tells her a club name. She kills him after that. At the club, she meets a Russian man who seems annoyed with her protecting Rachel. She says that she doesn't know anything. He shoots her, but apparently, she possesses superpowers. She becomes a flame of fire and burns everything around her. In a garage where a group of thugs are scoffing at one of the heroes, Hawk, he's chained to the ceiling when his wife, Dove, rescues him. When they return home, Hank seems tired from all the wounds. He tells his wife that the next mission will be their last. Rachel and Grayson stay the night in a motel room. He goes out to bring food when she looks at her reflection in the mirror. She finds the entity inside her and says, "Let me out." It startles her. She reads supplications to God to protect her. When Grayson comes back, he finds her in the bathtub and calms her down. Let's go to Missouri with a typical ordinary family. The kids play Monopoly. The father reads the newspaper, and the mother prepares the meal. But when the doorbell rings, the father opens the door to find a man who hands him a photo of Rachel. The man understands that it's their new operation to find the girl. The ordinary family wasn't so ordinary after all. Back to Grayson and Rachel, who asks him whether he's going to leave her. He reassures her that he'll be with her. They reach Washington and go to Hank and his wife, Dawn, who opens the door, and once she shakes Rachel's hand, she reads her memories with Grayson. On the rooftop, Grayson tells Dawn everything about Rachel and how people are chasing her. He wants her to be safe, that's why he brought her here. But when Hank sees him, he becomes upset. Dawn convinces him that he better accept Grayson as a member of their team. They need his help, especially since Hank has had multiple fractures and concussions. He needs to delegate and focus more on the healing process. But Grayson has other plans for Rachel. He intends to leave her with the Hank family. He prepares a letter and cash for the girl, but when Rachel enters the house, he hides the letter. He wants to leave the girl without telling her, contrary to what he has promised her to be at her side. But Dawn doesn't understand what's going on with him. They're not over their history. When Hank steps in and finds her close to Grayson, he gets in a skirmish with him. Dawn tries to stop them, but they don't. Until the creature inside Rachel yells, "Stop!" breaking the glass into bits and pieces. They become baffled by her powers. In a different place, Amy enters her home. She finds a girl sobbing, and once she turns around, she cuts her hand asking about Grayson's whereabouts. It's the Missouri family. The boy beats her while the girl stabs her. Then the parents join the party. They kill her after knowing Grayson's place. Rachel contemplates the recent blowout of hers. When Grayson checks on her, Dawn comes saying that they're going to stop the gun smugglers. Grayson tries to stop her, but she doesn't listen to him, and Rachel tells him that he must help Dawn. And he helps. When the gun dealers take Dove and Hawk, Robin rescues them and kills all the thugs. At the same time, Rachel finds the letter that Grayson wrote for Dawn. She becomes upset knowing that he intends to leave her. When the heroes reach home, Grayson calls on Rachel, but she doesn't respond to him. He finds her on the rooftop. She shows him his letter, and Hank reads the letter and again becomes frustrated. But the Missouri family arrives. They throw Dawn and Grayson off the rooftop and beat Hank. Rachel is hiding, panting in fear. They find her and take her with them. In a short while, Grayson finds Dawn on the ground and is about to die. And the red-haired lady sees the strange family taking Rachel with them. Now let's go back 2 days earlier to Michigan. One night, Corey went to Rachel's home. While checking around, 3 police officers came in, but she got rid of them. Corey has been watching over Rachel's movements all this time. Now she wants to know her secret. She'll rescue her at any cost. When the Missouri family stops at a fuel station, she decides it's time to take her plan into action. The father is watching over Rachel, who's inside the restroom, when from behind comes Corey and burns him completely. She spots Rachel inside and takes her away. And when the rest of the family comes, they see the father dead. In the car, Corey shows Rachel her photo from St. Paul Church. She says that she doesn't recall anything from a few days ago. All she knows is that she has to rescue Rachel. On the other hand, Dawn is in a critical condition in the hospital, and Grayson goes back to 15 years ago when he was in the police station in Gotham City. The police officer tells him that Bruce Wayne is interested in adopting him. Grayson the kid reached the foster home. When he was checking his room, he knew that this was not his life. He fled through the window. Back to the present, Grayson's thoughts have been cut by Hank, who asks about the people who kidnapped Rachel. He replies that he doesn't know them, but will take care of what happened. Grayson gets a call from the police that his partner Amy has been killed, and that a mysterious woman was at Rachel's home. The same woman attacked a diner and was seen with Rachel. And through the security camera's footage, Grayson gets Corey's car plate number and knows the woman he's looking after. He locates the car and is up to reach them. Meanwhile, Corey reaches St. Paul's Church. One of the sisters welcomes them inside. Corey asks her about the key that she found in her purse. The sister tells her that it's a locker key in a sports hall down the street. They reach there. Rachel is playing some games when a boy named Gar joins her, and Corey finds another key inside the locker. Grayson arrives, and after spotting Corey, he talks to her about Rachel. Once they meet, he tells her that he isn't leaving her, but Rachel asks him to stop lying. She becomes furious, and the entity inside her comes out and breaks the car's windows into pieces. Rachel asks them to go back to the church. At the church, Rachel asks them to leave her for some time by herself. She's afraid that she might hurt any of them unintentionally. And while they're talking, Corey sneaks out and steals Grayson's car. He locates her easily as he did before and finds where she's driven the car. The sister gives Rachel tea to calm her nerves down. She's put some kind of sleeping pills in her mug, and Rachel is taken to a room where they lock her down. When Rachel realizes what's going on, she keeps banging on the door and screaming. Nobody helps her there. But the creature inside her talks to her once again. She breaks the mirror and tries to get rid of him, but she can't. He tells her that he is all that she got, especially after her mother's death. And now Dawn is about to die too. He manipulates her thoughts, and she desperately is trying to find her way out. On the other hand, Corey reaches the address she found on the key. Inside, she finds a research setting, where papers and photos are on the walls, and when she plays a cassette player, she hears her voice recording the progress she made. Grayson catches her off guard. He is upset about her stealing his car, but he can locate her because he has modern devices for that he got from his adoptive father, Bruce. But the important thing is that they have discovered that the mortality rate spiked drastically ever since Rachel was born. After finding an alien language, Corey says that Rachel might be a part of a prophecy, and that she's the destroyer of the world. When they feel a shaking in the building, they hurry out to see what's happening, and find smoke coming out the church. There, Rachel runs until she goes to the woods. With a family that adheres to social etiquette, but kills brutally. They'd meet with Dr. Adamson. Upon learning that they've failed, he intends to kill them. But after the girl shows some evil potential, he leaves them alive to pursue their quest of bringing Rachel to him. He tells them that Rachel possesses formidable powers, and she's the threshold of her father, who'll destroy the world and allow them to come in the open and be the dominant power. In the woods, Rachel runs without knowing where she is heading. She hears the growling of a tiger, seemingly doesn't intend to harm her. The animal shifts itself into a man. He's Gar from the sports hall. He takes her to his place. There, he calls his place Nirvana, where all the classics and vintage toys can be found. They hear heavy footsteps. It's Cliff, the robot man, as Gar calls him. He was a race car driver, but he got into an accident, and the chief saved his life, or says his brain. Rachel explores that place to find another weird man, Larry, who's dancing and cooking, with a gauze wrapped around his face, and because she's hungry, they preserve a seat for Rachel at their dining table. They gather for dinner with another member, Rita. Every one of them has a story that brought them to this place, and just when they're about to start their meal, the door opens. It's the mysterious chief. He tells them that they have a new patient, a girl, Shailene Lau, who needs their help. They leave the table and hurry to her. She was engulfed in liquid nitrogen in a protest she organized. They all try their best to save her life, but it's out of their hands right now. Rachel intervenes and helps her become stabilized. The chief is amazed by Rachel's ability. However, he scolds Gar for bringing outsiders to their place. Then he says that he can help the girl but needs to know more about her abilities. They sit together and have dessert. The chief tells her that everyone here had been saved from hazardous conditions. Rita when he helped her from a poisonous gas that was about to destroy her body cells. Cliff the pilot rescued him from a plane accident. And Gar, who got infected with a rare disease, however. He became able to unzip his DNA and turn into a tiger. The chief says that he can help her if she allows him to. Because she needs help and believes in hope, she agrees to undergo his experiments. They take her to their operation room where they tie her. And under stern order, the chief asks Gar to hand him his case. Gar reluctantly obeys him. And Rachel changes her mind and tells the man that she doesn't want the operation anymore. But he doesn't bother listening to her. She implores Gar, who takes the step to unstrap her, but the doctor orders him to leave. Gar is triggered and is about to shapeshift into the tiger when the chief shoots him with a tranquilizer dart. He loses consciousness. The entity inside Rachel says that he'll hurt her, as he hurt her friend Gar. And a black energy comes off her mouth and swirls upward, then whirls around the man. The bulbs and lights fluctuate in the house. At the same time, Grayson and Corey arrive, but they're stopped by the other members of the house. The black energy wraps around the chief and hits him against the wall. He faints on the spot, and Rachel screams, trying to untie the stripe around her waist. From outside, they hear the voice, and Corey tells Grayson to help Rachel while she'll take care of the rest. He hurries and finds the black energy spinning around in an eerie scene. He shouts, "Rachel!" She tells him to leave before she hurts him, but he hugs her, reassuring her that he won't leave her on her own. He'll be with her. And she gets back to normal. From above, Corey and the rest are watching the poor girl sobbing. In a while, Rachel leaves with her protectors, while the chief's squad bids her farewell, but they allow Gar to be with her, because he can have a life outside their hideout. And Grayson drives his Porsche in the night. And because the newly formed team is growing bigger, and with a risky mission, Grayson traded the Porsche for a minivan. They reach a motel to stay for the time being. Grayson takes the lead, explaining that they must stick together and create a unison against their enemies who want to recruit Rachel's abilities for their sinister goal. But to be one force, they need to understand the mechanisms of each individual's ability and train them for the greater good. In a storage house, each individual shows their capabilities. Corey absorbs the sun's energy and turns it into light and heat. She needs to recharge herself for the night, which takes long hours. Gar shapeshifts into a roaring tiger, and when he returns, he's completely naked. And when Rachel's turn comes, the black energy comes out of her mouth. Grayson shouts, "Rachel!" and Corey throws fire at her. Then she comes back to her normal state. And Grayson is the leader who will be their dragon force. In a different scenario, the Strange family welcomes their new dad, and they commence their mission of finding Rachel. And Grayson hears a noise from outside his room. He checks out to find the Strange family has arrived. They get into a fierce fight. From the other end, Corey knocks on Rachel's door when she's attacked by the other part of the family, the kids, but she attacks back. Eventually, they gather in the parking lot where they face the Strange family. Corey is up to throw the fire, but at night she loses her powers. Suddenly, a tear gas is thrown by Robin. Rachel murmurs. He gets rid of them all. And as Grayson has told them that he'll be their force, Gar turns into a roaring tiger, and Rachel unleashes the creature inside her. And they tie the family. The kids with Rachel and Gar, and the parents with Grayson and Corey. They ask them who has employed them. They don't answer, and when Corey is up to try more aggressive methods, Grayson stops her, saying that they're brainwashed and nothing will make a difference for them. Grayson decides to check their car when he finds a communicating device. He finds the caller's location. He leaves the lead in Corey's hand and hits the road to Dr. Adamson's place. When Dr. Adamson learns that Grayson managed to reach his dwelling place, he blows up the chips that are planted in the family's heads. Upon finding him, Grayson asks Adamson why he's exactly after Rachel. He replies that he's working for her father. He says that the organization is coming for him. And the countdown starts. Suddenly, armed men storm in. They gather around Grayson, who seems to be losing it all. Out of the blue, a man falls onto them and sends them into nice comas. He introduces himself to Grayson as the new Robin. They tie Adamson and take him to a place where the organization can't find them all. The new Robin's name is Jason. Grayson learns that Jason works for Batman, who installed a tracker in their arms. That's why they could find him. They go to one of Bruce's safe houses, but once Grayson goes through the biometric recognition, he gets denied access. However, Jason's access is granted. Grayson drags Adamson and puts him in a washroom. Then he extracts the tracker out of his arm. At this time, Corey calls him and says that the family has been killed. She explains that it must be Adamson who exploded their heads. It means that they're not safe. That's why he asks her to bring Rachel and Gar to the safe house where he's staying right now. Grayson thanks Jason because he told him about the tracker. He tells him that Bruce works only for himself. But Jason is showing loyalty and says that Bruce sent him a letter. Grayson opens it to find pictures of the former Halley Circus teammates, where all of them burnt down with acid. Grayson is relieved because one of the circus teammates was Clay, who isn't among the victims. He searches on the computer to find him still alive. This man is the closest one to his heart. He wanted to raise him after his parents died, but he preferred to send him to Bruce because he was richer than him. At this time, Corey arrives with the kid. They stay at the safe house with Adamson. Grayson reaches Clay. They catch up on what they missed all those past years. Suddenly, Jason gets into a fight, and the place blows up. Everyone runs out except for Clay, who searches his mobile phone. Grayson gets a phone call from Clay, but once he picks up the call, a strange man tells him that if he doesn't come to meet him, he'll kill Clay. Grayson hurries to where he's told to meet the man. There he finds Clay hanged with a chain and the same hydrofluoric acid above him. In this encounter, Clay gets to know that Grayson is Robin. Nick, the man who's threatening him, is Tony's son, who was the man behind killing Grayson's family. 2 years ago, Tony was arrested by the police, but since he offered his cooperation with the police, they released him. Grayson became furious that Tony wouldn't be held accountable by the police. He decided to take revenge on him away from the law. Because he knew the vehicle in which Tony was deported, Grayson attacked the officers, handing Tony over to the gang, who killed him. Back to the present, when Nick says they killed his entire family and his fiancée as well, and barely got himself away from the thugs' hands. However, he lost half of his face from their acid, and ever since, he is after Grayson because he's the reason behind everything that happened to his family. Grayson says that he only wanted to take revenge on Tony, but Nick doesn't accept the lame excuse. It all started with his little act of revenge. He commences the torture and drips the acid on Clay's shoulder, who screams out of pain. Fortunately for Grayson, Jason comes in time. He attacks Nick, and Grayson throws the ninja star and cuts off Clay's chain. Nick is up to kill Jason when Grayson attacks and knocks him out. Meanwhile, the police arrive at the place. Jason kills them all. When Grayson stops him, he says they deserve much worse because they all are corrupted. Grayson takes care of Clay and heads back to the safe house where he finds Corey and the rest. And upon Adamson's demand, Rachel is the only one who can talk to him. He manipulates her by saying that she's in this world to save it and that she can heal the wounds and do all good things with her powers. To show her what she can do, he slits his throat and she hurries, putting her hand on the cut. And to her surprise, it gets healed. But what he says to Grayson is something else, that no one but Rachel will let her father into the world. Her biological mother, Angela, couldn't stop him. No one was able to separate him from Rachel. Adamson claims that they're keeping Angela in an asylum away from Rachel. Once they're united, Rachel will let her father into the world for whatever divine mission he holds in his intentions. Rachel is eager to reunite with her real mother, but Grayson says that they should pause and think thoroughly, because marching to the asylum could lead them to their enemy's trap. Gar, who is sympathetic to her pain, tells Rachel that they'll get her mother out without Grayson and Corey's knowing. But Grayson and Corey have it all well studied. They have found that the asylum's 14 exits are heavily secured, and there are dozens of patrolling guards from the inside. They have 3 options. They knock on the door as kind visitors, or Corey blows down the front door, as she says. The third option is the tunnels, which is the most agreeable option with Grayson, but still, they'll be outnumbered by the guards. However, Grayson says he has faced worse-case scenarios than this one. On the kids' side, Gar and Rachel step inside the asylum boundaries, which is a trap, as Grayson has said. The guards shock them with the electric guns and take them in. Grayson and Corey reach the tunnel, where at one end, they see Gar unconscious in a wheelchair, and from behind, a woman and her men block their way out. Corey is up to burn them, but Grayson stops her once he notices the gas pipes up their heads. They're out of options right now. They're taken to closed rooms with no exits. Grayson is stripped on a chair for their experiments. He becomes nervous when the woman says that they'll help him settle down. He becomes unconscious over the injection. And Corey, who's locked down in a jail. They wait for her until she's depleted and out of her powers. They release a gas in her confinement, upon which she faints on the ground. While Gar is tied to the ceiling, they want him to show his ability. He's still resistant, and they keep torturing him with electric shocks. Rachel is having much better service. She opens up her eyes to find Adamson in front of her. He warned her that she'd better think of the others who might be put in danger upon any move of her. Adamson tells her that they've been tasked to have her in their confinement. He plays around with her emotions, and if she wants her mother alive, then she has to cooperate with them. He asks her to let her friends away from them and their cause, and that she can put an end to everybody's suffering by reuniting with her father. But she gets furious, and the creature inside her groans, and she kills him. Rachel gets back to her normal state. She's up to find her mother's confinement. She reaches room number 732, and when she opens the door, she hears a singing voice. That could be her mother. In the beginning, the mother thinks it's one of their many experiments, but Rachel shows her a mark on her back, and the mother hugs her. Rachel says that they must rescue the rest of the team. Rachel unlocks Gar's jail, but one of the workers there sees them. He hits Angela, but Gar is shifted to a tiger. He drags him into the jail and kills him with lethal bites, causing him deadly tears and wounds. They find Grayson under drugs, but once Rachel talks with him, he listens to her words and becomes responsive. They help him out. The only one left is Corey. They save her from the people who were operating their experiments on her. They find her intubated, but Gar helps her with that. And all of them are free by now. On their way out, Grayson kills all the guards and asks Corey to blow the whole place into ruins. When they're out, she burns it down, and they escape the place at once. The next day, they get back to their normal life at the safe house, and Rachel doesn't want to leave her mother's side. Angela wants to enjoy freedom, especially after spending 5 years away from sunlight. Angela offers them to stay at her house in Ohio, but the squad has their own lives. Grayson goes back to his life, and Corey wants to find out more about herself and her background. They bid each other farewell. Rachel seems sad over Grayson's separation, but she's more than grateful for his help. He gets in a taxi and goes away. He meets with his friend Donna, who's been adopted by Bruce, but she left him to Wonder Woman and became her assistant. Grayson tells her that he can't bear the violence anymore, and that he went cold turkey on Robin's role. He asks her if he can stay at her place for some time until he gets his life together. She agrees. She shows him some of her skills as a Wonder Girl, and he follows her. On the train to Ohio, Corey seems flabbergasted by the memories she's regaining from the asylum experiments on her, but she notices a man following her. She takes him aside, and once alone, she attacks him, but he says that he's following her because she's attractive. She believes him and lets him out of her grip. But in a while, the same man reports to the police that he got the woman who attacked the police in Illinois. Suddenly, the train stops on the pretext that they have an obstruction on the tracks. She feels something unusual in the air and hurries with Gar where Rachel can be found. She tells Gar to help them out and meet with her down the road. And she manages to escape from the cops who are pouring inside the train from everywhere. But the quartets meet once again and hit the road to their destination in Ohio. Back to Grayson and Donna. They have a small talk over sips of beer. But once she scrolls through his phone pictures, Donna asks about the Sumerian written piece, and depending on the book she has, she translates what's written there. On Corey's side, they reach the house, which is pretty much in a deserted location. But Corey seems out of sorts. Her memories intensify. Rachel asks her to allow her to help her. She surrenders herself to her hands. She gets all her memories back and looks at Rachel straight in the eyes. In the car, Grayson is driving to Ohio. Donna has found out that what's written in the Sumerian is Corey's mission statement. She's referred to as the Starfire. She says that Corey's mission is to kill Rachel. And Rachel screams because Corey wants to strangle her with bare hands. In a different scene in the hospital, Hank is with Dawn, who is still under intensive care. He has vivid memories of his childhood. How his little brother, Don, talked to the athletic director about Hank's concussions. He got angry, and once the others in the library shushed them down, they responded with a fight. They were summoned to the principal's office, who expelled them. They reached home with heavy hearts because they couldn't see a bright future anywhere waiting for them. Hank deals with anger issues from his childhood. That's once he got raked by the coach in the locker room. And to get this anger out in a good way, they decided to help the voiceless people and drop the number of crimes in the city. But how did Hank meet with Dawn? It was a shiny day. Dawn and Hank were happy upon seeing their pictures in the newspaper headlines. They bumped into Dawn and her mother. But that happy coincidence is followed by a tragic accident that killed two dear people, Dawn and Dawn's mother. Neither Hank could overcome the sadness, nor did Dawn. They joined a grief group, but talking about the pain is a painful resort. With time passing, Dawn takes Dawn's place and both fight the criminals in the city. But the strange thing is, both see Rachel in the reflection of the surfaces and mirrors, and Dawn opens her eyes and comes out of the coma. Dawn wakes Hank up and tells him that Rachel wants their help and that they must find Jason. And back to Rachel, where she screams. Gar strikes Corey's grip off Rachel's neck, but she attacks him. Grayson reaches to stop her, but she throws the poor Gar toward him. They both faint on the floor. Only when Donna wraps her lasso around Corey's neck, she loses concussions and falls to the ground. Corey gets back to normal. Something has dominated over her. She asks them what has happened. Angela asks her to leave the house because she has become a danger to her daughter. She leaves, and Grayson follows her, but she doesn't respond to anyone right now. And Donna throws a ninja star tracker in the back of her car. Corey reaches a place where she often sees in her memories, while Grayson and Donna followed her. She opens the gate, and once inside, the three get scanned, and from nowhere, a ship appears in front of them. Corey says, "It's mine." An automated voice calls her Coriander. To their surprise, she responds with an alien language. The rear of the ship opens for her to enter. They ascend into its inside, and once there, Corey remembers everything. They find an old book, Death of Worlds. She puts her hand on a console and projects the future of her planet, Tamaran. She remembers how a being called Trigon came to Earth and conceived a woman to bring a daughter into life. She'll be his anchor who keeps him on Earth and to spread his darkness. But when Donna says that there are three figures in the book, Trigon, Rachel, and it must be her mother, Angela, she used them as pawns to reach her goal, Rachel. In Ohio's house, Gar wakes up feeling sick. He falls on the ground, and Rachel tries to help him, but someone is knocking on the door at this late hour. Angela opens the door to find a man. He's up to call the police, but she stabs him to death. She heads back to her daughter and convinces her to summon her father to their world. because he's the only one who can heal Gar right now. Rachel, who has all the world's faith in her mother, agrees to what she's saying. She opens up a portal in the mirror for her father Trigon to come through from another dimension. She pulls the black energy toward her and screams. But eventually, Trigon is here. She only asks him to heal Gar, and he easily heals him. From the outside, the team finds an electrified field around the house. They learn that something unusual is happening with Rachel. Grayson is determined to help her. He runs and gets through to the other side. However, Corey and Donna aren't able to pass the field. But where Grayson's taken, he travels through time to his future, where he's happily married to Dawn and has little Johnny. The laptop chimes, and once they open it, they get a video call from Rachel and Gar, who are in the college. Johnny sees a man in the driveway, and when Grayson checks that, he finds Jason in a wheelchair. He asks him to help Batman, who intends to kill Joker. He's the only hope and the real Robin that can help Batman before he starts killing more people in Gotham. He's reluctant, but once he tells Dawn, she convinces him to help him out. Now, whatever doubts are lurking inside him have vanished. He travels to Gotham, where he finds everything has immensely changed with Batman's absence. The city has become a hub of crimes. What worsens the situation is when he enters a crime scene. He finds the victim is Joker. Then he finds Captain Frank Finney from Gotham Police. He's Trigon. Finney asks for his help to arrest Batman, who refuses and walks away. Upon that, Finney stares at Joker's body, and somehow he becomes alive. Here, Grayson changes his mind. But he needs to check on Bruce. Once he reaches his mansion, Bruce rejects meeting with him. He goes to the hospital to ask Joker some questions. There, he finds Corey, who works for the feds by now. She tells him that he should go back to his family and stop playing the Batman savior. But the electricity cuts off, and when they go back to Joker's room, they find Batman has killed him this time. And once again, Grayson sees a massacre committed by Batman in an asylum. Upon this, he decides to report to the police about the true identity of Batman. He meets with Captain Finney and tells him that he's Bruce Wayne. They create an armed squad led by Grayson as he demands, and when they arrive at his mansion, they distribute ticking bombs as a backup plan. Once they reach his den, they find an empty place, but Batman falls upon them and gets rid of all, including Finney and Corey. Here, Grayson orders to take the mansion down, and to get sure that Batman is dead, Grayson searches for him in the rubble and finds him alive. He kills Batman. Grayson has listened to the dark side inside of him, as did Batman once he killed Joker. He has changed by now. But all this ends when he goes back in time to Ohio's house. Trigon has added a unique talent under his darkened wing. That is Grayson. Rachel wants him back to himself, but it is too late. This is the end of the first season. What will happen next season? Will Grayson follow Trigon for real? And what Rachel will do? And what about the rest of the team?